I know it's hard right now to be a Houston Texans fan. Everything just feels like it's going downhill. All that going on with Deshaun. He might be heading to Denver, Carolina. Maybe he could go to New England and kick it with Robert Kraft. Jokes aside, I think there is some optimism. Even there's optimism. Potentially not this season, but at least for the future. But we're going to go over the Texans, do a deep dive. What's crack-a-lacking? It's your boy Broshmo, just in case you did not know. So we're going to be taking a look at all 32 NFL teams, breaking down the roster, giving you my projected starters and how I think they will do this season. So, yeah, we're going from worst to first. Sorry, Texans fans. This might be a reality, but hopefully I could offer some words of optimism because there is some optimism to be had on this roster. So let's go ahead and actually start with that. Let's take a gander at the roster. And offensively, let's start with basically what they got going on here. So with David Culley coming from Baltimore and now Tyrod being kind of the mainstay at quarterback, you got to imagine, maybe they'll adopt more of that kind of like, a more RPO heavy scheme, which I think will be a bit more the case. I think they're still gonna have some similarities to last year's offense, which I think that was pretty RPO heavy as well. So it's just going to be, I think it's going to be a lot, especially with Tyrod. It's going to be a lot of quick reads. And for the most part, I think it's really going to be simplistic in terms of the route design. But offensively, it just feels like this team doesn't have the firepower. Obviously, looking at the quarterback situation, Deshaun Watson, it's a huge question mark. He doesn't want to play in Houston anymore. He's out there thinking he's a free agent. You're not. But it seems like he's played his last down for the Texans as of right now. You got Tyrod. He's a vet. He might get you a couple wins. Maybe. You did draft Davis Mills. And I mean, the more I reflect on that, the more it was like, man, if you're going to be drafting probably like first or second overall in the 2022 draft, why draft a quarterback in the 2021 draft in the third round? It just makes a little less sense. I'm sure they had a bit of no. I actually have no good answer for that. Yeah, that pick, it's kind of a head scratcher. But I'm gonna go operate under the assumption they're gonna move forward with Tyrod, or not move forward with him, but he's gonna be the starter probably throughout this year. We might get glimpses of Davis Mills. I highly doubt it. And I think how they invested in a running back this offseason tells me that this is going to be a very run-heavy offense. I mean, they brought in Phillip Lindsay, Mark Ingram, and then Rex Burkhead. So all vets for the most part. I mean, and Phillip Lindsay feels like he's been around the league for a while. I think he's going to be a good change of pace back in this offense, while Ingram, he's going to be a locker room vet, more of a power back, and then Burkhead, great receiving upside, and then David Johnson's kind of all those things, just probably he's probably on the downslope of his career at this point, but I imagine he's going to end up at least being the guy they want to get a bulk of the carries there. I don't even think another running back makes the roster, if I'm going to be completely honest with you. Maybe Scotty Phillips. Maybe. Dontrell Hilliard actually wasn't too bad there in Cleveland for a couple of stretches, but and then receiving though, I think I'm actually pretty optimistic here. I like the pick of Nico Collins. He's a big guy that, like, he's not a burner by any means. He's but he's got some moves. He's got some moves. I actually was a big fan of Nico Collins. I kind of wish he did I don't know, man. I really wish he didn't opt out, but I mean, you could really go back to any of my draft videos for the 2021 class. Man, I was a big Nico Collins fan, but I think he's good. When it's all said and done, he ends up the number 2 here outside of Cooks, with Cobb operating the slot, and we might see glimpses of Kiki QT there in the slot as well. Big thing for him has just been health concerns. I don't know why they list Andre Roberts as a starter. He's really just there as a special teamer. And then comes a question. They're probably going to have 5 or 6 receivers on the roster. So Isaiah Coulter, a guy they drafted like a year or 2 ago out of Rhode Island, that I thought was a pretty good late round selection. I can't see him making the roster. Dante Moncrief, I don't know, man. Maybe Chris Conley or Chris Moore. I don't know. It'll be interesting regardless. I think they're going to be the 5 guys they keep are Roberts, Cooks, Cobb, Collins, and Kiki QT. On top of that, we got tight end Jordan Atkins. I think will probably continue to be the starter and see most of the work. Brevin Jordan, not quite there yet. More of a receiving threat. He was mainly used as a slot, or used in the slot there at Miami. Didn't really do a lot of inline blocking, so he's probably going to be used exclusively as on passing downs. Cahill Warren, man, injuries really messed that guy's startup. He's kind of like the Josh Oliver for the Texans. Pharaoh Brown actually we saw glimpses of him last year. I didn't even know they had Ryan Izzo on the roster. I can't imagine that they keep more than 4 tight ends though. Probably be Atkins, Jordan, maybe Brown and Izzo, man. I could see this being a make or break year for Warren. But in turn, I think that's it's not a great group of receiving options. Like you got Cooks downfield, which is good for Tyrod Taylor, man. He will throw the ball downfield. Just accuracy, obviously, it's kind of was a huge part of why he never made it as a starter there in Buffalo. But speaking of Buffalo, I mean, I think he was under Greg Roman, right? I believe he was under Greg Roman, so I don't know how much that influences David Culley. But I don't know if Greg Roman, Tyrod Taylor. Well, I guess Tyrod Taylor and Greg Roman, let's see. Yeah, it was in Buffalo. Okay, I thought so. So I don't know how familiar Culley's with Tyrod Taylor. So maybe they can orchestrate a pretty solid offense around that. But like I said, it's going to be very run heavy. And honestly, part of the offensive line's not half bad here. Laramie Tunsil's probably a top 10 to top 15 tackle in the league. He's easily probably their best player on offense if we don't include Deshaun Watson. Max Sharpen, kind of in a make or break year this season, I would say. You could probably say the same thing about Titus Howard. Titus Howard, man, every time I feel like he's taking steps forward, man, it's just he's not bad though. Don't get me wrong, he's not bad. It's just he's very pedestrian. Honestly, it wouldn't surprise. Marcus Cannon is a bit he's further along in his career there, so it doesn't surprise me they got listed as a right guard. He's been a tackle for his whole career, but man, you get it up there in age, the body moves a bit slower. He's still got it up here, man. Just kick him to the inside where you don't need to be nearly as fast to keep up with those edge guys. But man, they could easily, if Howard struggles, they could kick Cannon to the outside and bring in Lane Taylor, because Lane Taylor is a solid piece. I could see Lane Taylor taking over Sharpen if he struggles. Justin Britt, he's a vet, is what it is. They do bring in Ryan McCullum, But I don't know. Ah, man, I don't know if that cat even makes the roster. I wasn't that high on a lot of the Texas A&M offensive line talent in the past draft. However, this year, Kenyon Green, big fan. But I think for the most part, I think it's a solid enough. Like, I would say sharpens their weakest link if Howard kind of just lives up to his billing. Like, yeah, I mean, dude's a former first rounder, man. He just gotta live up to it. Froholt, I was actually a big fan of in New England. Injuries for that guy too. So yeah, we'll see. Jaron Christian from Washington. Oh, that's an interesting name to watch. I don't know if he makes a roster, but if he does, it's a guy that could probably maybe sneak in a few starts if there's injuries. But for the most part, it's not a bad line. I think this offense is. I think it's designed. It's gonna be a hey, we're gonna try to hold on to the ball. We're gonna have these long drives and they're gonna try to sprinkle in a little bit of explosive plays, big plays here and there, kind of like a. They're gonna be a bit surgical with it, kind of like. Oh crap! Who was Jacksonville's coordinator last year? Offensive coordinator, Jaguars. Oh, Jay Gruden. Yeah, I think maybe similar in that manner, in turn, not necessarily how the offense operates, but how often they take deep shots. I mean, Jay Gruden was his offense, at least recently, his scheme has been known to they don't take many shots, but when they do, they typically hit. So I feel like this offense will be a bit of the same. So I think they're really gonna unfortunately have to rely on their defense at times, just too often, and I just don't think their defense is there. Let's just talk about the defense. Our lads kind of has it listed weird because I think they're going to be moving to a 4-3 under Lovie Smith, and I imagine it's going to be a ton of cover too because it's Lovie Smith. But yeah, man, they got it listed all kinds of wonky up on here. Let's talk about the secondary because I think this is easily the strongest part of their roster because they had a lot of veteran additions this offseason, and mainly like just looking at their top corners, Bradley Roby. I assume Terrence Mitchell will end up getting the starting gig. He's been very reliable. Desmond Keane, I think, is going to be a star, dude. He, like, going back to a very zone-heavy scheme, I think it's going to be ideal for him. So him in the slot. And then they could sprinkle in. I don't know why they have Justin Reed listed here as free safety. Did I say John Reed? I meant John Reed. That's who I was looking for. But John Reed, who they drafted last year out of, I believe it was Penn State. I know it was Big Ten. Might be Michigan State, one of the two. But he's a guy that you don't want probably on the outside. He's been on the smaller side. But, I mean, that can work in Lovie Smith's scheme. Eric Murray's also a guy you can use in that facet. But he's, again, another guy you want more around the line of scrimmage and around the box. Justin Reed, he's phenomenal. He was a great get there. I think Lonnie Johnson Jr., that was a brilliant move last year to move him to safety. He excelled last year, and I think he could take a next big step forward. Terrence Brooks, I think he's mainly there. He's kind of a vet, also a good special teamer guy. But I really like how this secondary looks. Vernon Hargreaves, that's all I'm saying. But yeah, I think you can get by with this secondary. My fear is that this secondary won't have enough time. Or they'll have too much time because the pass rush, it's not there. Whitney Merciless, he's on the he's on the downslope of his career, unfortunately. Like, I think he His best years are behind him. He's not going to be a high sack guy. Shaq Lawson, who they bring in from Miami, is probably going to start on the other side of him. He's more of a run defender, where he actually succeeded a ton last year for Miami, and I could tell you because I'm a Miami Dolphins fan, is when he was kicked inside. That's where he got a lot of his pressure. So I don't see them getting a lot of pressure on the outside, even from guys like Jordan Jenkins. Let's be honest, guys. Come on, don't be taking them Jets cast-offs. But yeah, I mean, Jonathan Greenard, he's in his second year. I don't see him getting much playing time. Maybe Charles Owenu. He's going to be interesting how they use him, because I thought he was tailor-made to be a 3-4 end. Now here they are. I'm pretty confident they're moving to a 4-3. It's Lovie Smith. So I don't know. I don't know what they do with that. I assume they kick him to the interior. So I assume they're gonna have Ross Blacklock there in the middle, and maybe Menu and Malik Collins are very similar players. Neither are that good at the run game, but both are both are good pass rushers. I would say Menu is the better one at this point. But I feel like I could see Malik Collins just being the vet there, getting a lot of snaps. Jaleel Johnson, who they got from Minnesota last year, free agency. I could see him getting worked into the offense or into the defensive line rotation there. But yeah, you tell me where you see them getting pressure on this roster. I don't see it. And then going to the linebacker, because this is also going to be very clutch in terms of coverage. And I think they're probably one of their better signings this offseason was Kevin Pierre-Louis. I was a big fan of Kevin Pierre-Louis. I'm surprised he keeps signing these one-year deals. I'm surprised the team doesn't want to keep him around longer than that. Phenomenal in coverage. I think he's adequate enough against the run. He should get the starting gig next to Zach Cunningham, who's pretty good in his own right. Christian Kirksey might see some time there, but he's never been a good coverage linebacker. If anything, he's just early downs. They brought in Garrett Wallow, who's more of a coverage guy. I can't see him being on the field early. I can't see him being on the field much of all next season anyway. So yeah, man, this is the thing, man. I just don't see where this team's gonna get their pass rush from. Like that poor secondary is gonna get toasted, and it's like hard to blame them. Like, it's hard to blame them. You could only cover for so long. It's a real shame. But let's go ahead to my projected starters real quick. All right. And this is my projected starters for the offense. Tyrod Taylor, David Johnson. And by projected starters, these are essentially who I think are going to get the most snaps. So when you look at the defense, which this will probably be more indicative too, you might not see the traditional 4-3. You're gonna see some slot guys in there. You might see maybe like four linemen, one linebacker, and then 7 defensive backs, something like that. It's who I think who's gonna get on the field the most. So Tyrod Taylor, David Johnson, Brandon Cooks, Nico Collins, Randall Cobb there in the slot. Jordan Atkins, I think, is going to end up seeing the most time there. He's been solid he was solid for them last year. Laramie Tunzel, Max Sharpen, Justin Britt, Marcus Cannon, and Titus Howard. So it's, again, we'll get to it when we'll get to it. Let's look at the defense. A big problem is just this team doesn't have any superstars. I think at the end of the day, without Deshaun Watson, even with Deshaun Watson, it's hard to see this team again, it just feels like this is going to be hard on Deshaun, even if he's there behind center. So for the defense, got Shaq Lawson, Whitney Merciless, Ross Blacklock, Malik Collins there edging out. I just think they're going to give the vet more snaps. Zach Cunningham, Kevin Pierre Lewis, Bradley Roby, Terrence Mitchell, another vet there. I think is going to get, but he's really good though. I like Terrence Mitchell. I thought he was a really good sign. Desmond Keene the second, Justin Reed, and Lonnie Johnson Jr. So just at the end of the day, it's like this team doesn't have any superstars. They just don't. I don't think the offense will be able to score nearly enough to make up for their lack of pass rush and for what they're going to necessarily give up. I think this is very similar to what we saw with the Jacksonville Jaguars last year, where early on, man, it was like that offense ain't half bad. Look at them go. Oh, man, but that defense is trash. And guess what? It caught up with them. Their offense could not catch up to how bad their defense was. But is what it is. Let's go ahead. Let's do the predictions, or I'll give you my prediction here. So at the end of the day, I think the Houston Texans will go 1-16. What a surprise. What a surprise. I think this is probably their floor easily. It's just hard to see this team. This is under the assumption of no Deshaun Watson. With Deshaun Watson, it's still hard for me to see this team winning more than 8 games, maybe 9 games, since we have the 17-game season now. But yeah, it's just it's gonna be tough sledding out there for y'all. It's funny. I was watching the Franchise Guys video, and I was like, oh man, dude, he has them winning the same game. Cause like when I was doing my record predictions, on playoff predictors, by the way, go check that out if you want to kind of make your own predictions. It's pretty fun to see who ends with what record at the end of the year. But when I was doing mine, I was like, so where can Houston win? I don't think they're gonna lose every game. Where do I see them winning? And then I tied it to Jacksonville because I was so invested in that Jacksonville team last year. I was such a big Gardner Minshew fan. And my subs can tell you that is the truth. But if anything, I think, yeah, they can beat a very young Jacksonville team at home, especially with how, like, again, this is a very veteran team. While they have some young pieces here and there, there's a lot of vets on this team. I think this team will be ready by week 1. They're playing at home. They're facing a very inexperienced Jaguars team. I think they could get a win there. Outside of that, I think it's tough sledding. Maybe they can get one versus the Jets. Maybe make it 2 wins. I don't know. We'll see. But like I said, with Deshaun, I still don't think this team competes for the playoffs. Then again, I mean, I think 9 wins, actually. 9 to 10. No, yeah. You gotta have 10 wins to get in the playoffs, or at least in the AFC. At least how I predicted it. But yeah, man. I mean, okay, let's go back to the roster real quick. Like, let's be optimistic about things here. There is a lot of great young talent. Like, let's go to the offensive line. If Howard turns out well, dude, if he turns the corner, with offensive linemen, typically we don't really find out who they are until year 3 or 4. That's when they really just come into their own there in the NFL. So if he turns a corner, then shoot, man, that's great. That's kind of like 3 of your 5 positions on the offensive line kind of figured out. And if you could just kind of bring in vets to kind of fill in those holes, then that's great. Like what they did with Cannon and Bryn and Taylor, like that's quality line. Nico Collins, Cooksby in the future there. I like that. Yeah, Reverend Jordan's there. I think mainly though, like defense, I'm not too like, I like how the secondary is put together. If you could get like, I really like how the secondary is put together. I like that a lot. I think Kevin Pierre Lewis, if that's a guy maybe you could hold on to for a couple of years, he could shore up that linebacker position and then just kind of invest. Next year's edge rushing class is huge. It's really good. If I am listen, if I am the Texans right now, I'm listening to offers for Deshaun Watson. I'm looking at man, it's really hard. It's really hard to trade him right now. Like, you could go with Denver. You pick up the extra first rounder this year. Or maybe you wait for all his stuff, all the legal stuff to kind of work itself out, or at least hope it works itself out. And then maybe you could get more for him. Like, if they don't trade him until after this season, I would look at a team like the Eagles, kind of hope that the whole Jalen Hurts project doesn't work out, and try to grab multiple first-round picks in this upcoming class. Because one, you're drafting first overall probably because you're the Texans, and you had no quarterback. So, bam, you could get your quarterback of the future. If we could grab one of the Eagles' top picks, that's our edge right there, man. That's our edge. Even if it's not Kayvon Thibodeau, there's a lot of good edge talent. You could take the second one off the board. You could, and then even if you just get another first-round pick in this class from the Eagles, like, oh my gosh, like, there is so much you can do by unfortunately moving on from Deshaun Watson, which is, I kind of think, what they're going to have to do. So I think in the long run, I really think, depending on what Denver, like, whoever's offering picks right now, might take him up on an offer, but I would definitely be trying to trade him if you hadn't done it already, by next season. And I think this team could have a bright future with that many early picks. Like, come on, dude. There's reason to be optimistic if you're a Houston Texans fan. There's just no reason to be optimistic this season. Because y'all suck. I'm a Dolphins fan, man. I know suck when I see it, and right now y'all suck. But that's it for the video. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. Anything I missed, or if you have any questions, of course, feel free to roast me, because I know you will. It's going to be a great time. I can't wait to respond to those. But yeah, we'll be back again in the next couple of days with my next worst team, so be on the look for that. But yeah, till next time, you be easy, my friends. Later.